intro music.
Okay, yeah, we need an intro music. No, we're on. Okay, so we're rolling. Anyways, everybody, hello to all the viewers, all the listeners, all the Terrans. You're watching the new podcast, The Asylum, for Total Croatia News. I'm Borna Sor, and with me is Cody Brown. Thank you for being our first guest, Cody.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's well. Listen, this is very important. You know, you and me, we can save Croatia with this podcast. So no pressure.
Okay,
no pressure.
That's fine.
No, it's all on us. So, let's start off with the traditional Croatian hospitality question. Why? Why are you here? Why are you in Croatia?
Well, that's a funny story. I'm here. The old answer used to be I'm here because of my wife. Right, my wife's Croatian. We met in the United States. Then we came here. And, it just seemed...
So it was love.
Yeah, it was love. Love brought me here. And then we got married, so there's, no love anymore, right?
Oh.
I mean, no, I'm joking. After being here and realizing it wasn't some war-torn, backward Balkan country that I imagined it was...
so there was a certain amount of prejudice.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought...
What was it?
When she told me that she was from Croatia, I assumed that was part or had been part of Russia something.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I didn't know. And
is it like a... I mean, did you know about Croatia or...
I had heard of it.
Okay.
I knew it was a place that had been communist, had been part of something Avia and broke up, right? But something Lavia, Chechnya, Yugoslavia, whatever. None of that mattered.
Okay, makes sense.
And what's funny is the night I met her, we were in a graduate class together. It was very, very cold, and I'm a nice guy. And when we left the...
Allegedly.
Yeah,
okay.
well, when we left the classroom, all the Americans went to the cars, and she, being a foreign student, was walking back to where the foreigners lived, right? There's special apartments for them. Yeah, kind of like the United Nations ghetto at the university. And I thought about offering her a ride, right? And then I thought, that's going to be really creepy. So I didn't. And then I thought, but I should because it was freezing cold. And so I turned around, drove back around looking for her. Couldn't find her.
That wasn't creepy.
Well, maybe it was fate. All right, I didn't find her, so the creepiness never came. That came later, but
parallel universes maybe.
Not the story, but the thing is that it was really cold, and I thought, well, that's okay. She must be used to the cold because she's from Croatia.
Siberia.
I assumed that Croatia was like Moscow or Vladivostok or whatever.
Makes sense, yeah.
Of course, she hates the cold. She's from Split. She holds like a personal grudge against the cold.
Oh yeah, me too, man. I hate it. I really hate it. Yeah. I'm so sad because I think for majority of Croatians, a lot of them when they move out of the country, let's say for education or work, they move toward countries that are probably richer and more developed. They're kind of more of them are in the north than in the south.
Yeah.
I think everybody's angry about that. Everybody would love, let's say that, Malta is like London or something like that, Just give me sun as well as good.
If only Greece could be like Sweden.
Yeah. We would love it. Everybody would love it. So yeah. So continue. So right, you meet and she's like, I'm Croatian. You're like, what?
Yeah, I was like, that's like Russia. No, so we met, and then eventually...
was she upset, or she was hiding it well when you...
No,
show how little you know about her company.
Well, I did a little bit of homework, right? So actually, once I found out she was from Split, I did some work, and I was like, oh, that's Illyria was like the Florida for Romans, right? That's where you went to retire.
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Split was Mar-a-Lago. Yeah,
right, exactly.
For the Croatian, yeah.
And, she knows Americans. She knows we don't know shit about anything, so
it's a common knowledge.
Yeah,
right. Nobody holds it against you. Right? It's not a problem.
And so then when we came here, we were off and on a little bit, and then we just decided to stay because, as I saw that it wasn't some war-torn, horrible country, I realized it's got a lot of things going for it, and it's
What was the first shock when you arrived?
Well, first we arrived in the Split, and just the history. I mean, just the fact that you have a living palace that's, this Mar-a-Lago is tasteful, and like that. But also, it was really, as I write about in the first book, was also a lot about the neighbors. Just the community, the way people dealt with each other. It's something that's absolutely missing from American society. You know,
but let me ask you one thing. So, right, United States is huge. You're from Oklahoma.
I'm from Oklahoma.
So, is it a little bit more like Oklahoma than it is like LA or New York? I guess.
I think to a certain extent, yes, but
even
I mean,
there's a complete difference when it comes to treating your neighbors. Is it because they're crowded? Because we're crowded?
It could be, but I mean, I've lived all over the United States, and you know, it's here. I mean, the neighbors in New York, it's not like, you know, I mean, my brother lives in New York. It's not like, no, his neighbors don't bring him soup or like, you know, ask what if he have good soup. We have great soup, or ask if he's eaten, or, you know, no, we're a very alienated community. I'm sure there are exceptions to that, but you know, America is a very, in my opinion, a very lonely and alienating society. Whereas Croatia, you know, I'm a foreigner here, and I feel more grounded and related to the people I live around and in the neighborhood that I live in than I have ever felt in the United States, including my childhood home. I mean, we had like some neighbors.
Is it because, and I don't want to take away from your charm, but is it maybe because you here are a very interesting person just by the fact that you're here, in the sense that, you know, if I can point out, I'm not going to say that Croatians are not as hospitable as as people from the United States, but I think that you as a person coming here and specifically like becoming a professor, writing books, and now there's theater plays, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but that is a very interesting thing, and coming here and doing this on the other side of the planet must attract people to you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, well, okay, it's why I'm doing this podcast, but I don't think that that's why the baba in the elevator.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, although one neighbor did tell my punica, she said, "Well, yours that writes books about you, mine just like you know gives me a headache or something." So I never know how much the neighbors actually know, right?
Everybody knows everything.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing, right? That's what I'm saying. Like in
maybe they think you're a spy, so that's why they're so nice. Well, you never know about that, right?
I think people have given up on that idea.
Oh no! Well, by the end of this podcast, we will find out for what Secret Service Cody is working for.
Hold on, wait. Yeah, okay, I gotta go.
Okay. So okay, it was love, and now you're here.
Yeah.
So okay, now tell me, you're not here doing nothing. Why? You're here doing a lot of stuff. So how did it start at all?
Well, I came.
What was the first job? I mean, usually in Croatia, people say we can't find, you can't get any job, but you're here. What's happening?
Well, so I came here for good with a research grant, a Fulbright fellowship from the U.S. government and the Croatian government to do my dissertation research.
You were academia approved.
Yeah, right. So that was, we were here for a year or so on that. So that had the money, right? And then. That money ran out, and I was working at a few English schools, trying to finish my dissertation, but because of that fellowship,
high schools,
no, like private schools,
schools,
yeah. But because of that fellowship, I was connected to the Faculty of Political Science, and I don't know what happened, but for some reason they needed an English teacher, and they called me. Right, but again, because of the neighbors,
strange thing called globalization.
Yeah, but those jobs are like for life. So somebody left, or they had some opening. I know one woman got sick, but that's not whose job I got. I got some other lady that just left, and so they needed me. They needed an English teacher. They called me, and so then I was a vanjski suradnik, and that put me, so that I was on people's radar. But then they had a natječaj, and eventually I got the job through that.
And now you're teaching.
Yeah, now I teach at the Faculty of Political Science.
Okay, what was the specific course you're teaching?
I teach English for journalism students and English for political science students.
How do you like the students? Is there something specific that you find about Croatian students that you were like surprised? Bad stuff and good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so first off, I haven't been teaching in America for 10 years, so I don't know what American students are like now. But yeah, I mean, Croatian students, I feel very bad for them. On the one hand,
they don't got guns.
Because, I mean, that's just, how can they ever know what freedom is without owning a gun? Yeah. No, I feel bad for them because they feel completely disconnected from any idea of hard work and payoff, right? They're like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. We don't have veze. I'm not going to get this job, right?
Okay. So like a dose of pessimism.
Yes, right. And then on the other hand, I feel very envious of them because their faculties are paid for by, they're subsidized by the state, which in the U.S. ours are not.
Not even community colleges?
Well, they are. I mean, you can do it. I went to a community college for a year, and yeah, you can do it cheap. But most people, if they want to do it the normal way in 4 years, they take on some debt
and loans and everything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they should be, I don't know, more aware of the opportunity that they have and seize it. Right.
Makes sense, yeah. So, you get, if education is something now that is global, basically, and you have to pay it somewhere else, use it.
Mm-hmm.
One can say for, like, dental work as well in Croatia. Like, I heard this, so there's, there's rising dental tourism in Croatia.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
there's a lot of things that are subsidized, and you don't even think about it, then you realize, oh my God, I thought it was like a basic thing somewhere else, but it's not. And yeah, I guess education goes under that, under that umbrella, but do you think that it's only pessimism because maybe because they think that doesn't matter if you have a free education? What's the use if you can't use it?
Yeah, I think that, right? I think it's that. It's also people telling them I hate this. This is still going on here, and it drives me nuts. But it's the idea that we should only educate as many people as there are for these jobs, right? But you can't predict what the economy is going to do. You can't say, oh well, in the next 5 years we're only going to need X amount of people. So you should let people study what they want to study, and who knows what's going to happen, right? And
makes sense. But
everybody,
do you agree with those? I think there was like a compromise with the idea that if you're a good student, you got to get it for free, but if you're a bad student, you have to repeat years, then you have to pay for yourself.
Yeah,
kind of combination.
Yeah, I think there should be some kind of incentive. Things should be incentivized, but the other thing is that with everybody tells them, oh, well, so if you don't go to the medical school, the law school, or the electrical engineering faculty, then
not worth it.
Yeah, then everyone's like, oh, well, why are you studying journalism? Why are you studying political science? And they take that on, and they're like, well, our faculty sucks. I was like, what do you mean our faculty sucks? It's got television, it's got radio, it's got a newspaper, right? The professors there are, on par with American university professors. But it's Croatia, so we just have to crap on it because that's how I.
So I think it's automatic pessimism that is like that goes beyond reality.
I think it's a lack of imagination that you can actually get an education, and it doesn't have to be at the top. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a computer scientist, and still use that education in your life to be productive and successful.
Okay, but then if people have such a pessimistic view, well, not all of them, I guess, but
not all of them,
but above average or above that, what you would like to hear from your own students. Right?
I almost feel like the student's soul is like a seed trying to get out of the dirt, and it's the society that has dumped the pessimism on them, and so they regurgitate these things. I don't know how much they believe it.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, being younger, a lot of stuff that you believe is somebody else's experience. But do a lot of them plan to leave, for example?
No, they want to stay.
So they want to stay,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it's not one of those combinations where I'm just gonna be saying that everything is crap because I'm gonna leave, but it's even more tragic, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the, and in terms of knowledge and production, they're quite good once you can get them to actually try to do something that's different. That's the biggest problem I have. Most of them would probably be happy if we just did grammar worksheets for an entire year and that was it. Right?
Oh, so they wouldn't have to think about it?
Yeah, that's I try to push them into to write things and to do things that are a little bit out of their comfort zone. And it's not because I'm ready to punish them, right? It's just because I want them to use the language in ways that they haven't been encouraged to use it before.
Yeah, creatively and with argumentation. You think one of the biggest problems that students in Croatia have is not maybe the level of English that they have, but the way that they have a problem with argumentation, even in Croatian.
Yeah, I think that I think I respect teachers. There's a lot of good teachers. I understand it's a complicated system and bureaucratic. It's like any education system anywhere. But from what I can tell in my experience of teaching is my students are not often asked for their educated opinion or their informed thought about something. They are asked to tell the professor what they have already read, and that's it, right? And when you're talking about language, what that generally means is they just nearly memorize something and then rewrite it. right?
Which in this 21st century digital world is kind of redundant.
Yeah,
more and
well,
more.
and also that's not a good way to actually learn and understand the language in terms of
and have
being able to use it
critical
productively.
opinions.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
And
but the level of English as such, were you surprised coming to Croatia? You had a couple of prejudices, I guess, coming to Split, seeing how it looks different was probably the first one, but second one, what did you expect from Croatian people?
In terms of
do we have Russian accents?
No. This is
English?
the funnest thing is that Croatians are the meanest to each other about their English, right? Like the people nas trastas thing.
Yeah, we
right.
go
Like
crazy over that.
and everybody's so. You guys, like Croatians are near perfectionists when it comes to speaking English, especially the
Just
younger
so much
generation.
Cartoon Network, man. So much Cartoon Network.
Well, and like I say, my students, this is so right now I'm having my journalism students work on these longer stories, right? So we're working on narrative nonfiction, right? But you tell a story, but it's true. And most of their problems are not grammar. It's just the problem that any young writer has, and they don't develop their ideas enough, right? So, the mistakes that my second year faculty students make are probably similar to what a first year kid from Oklahoma might make if he went to a crappy high school.
Oh yeah,
right?
so yeah, it's not big of a difference.
No, and in terms of their knowledge is quite good. They're a little bit too proud of their gymnasia, right? Like
okay.
Like I feel like I don't understand gymnasia, right?
Oh yeah, you mean like how like a Renaissance man, in a sense, this wide array of basic knowledge in that sense.
Yeah, sometimes like they will try to correct me on things because they learned it in their gymnasia.
Oh, that's weird because
and I'm
we went to gymnasia. Don't say gymnasia. We say the specific gymnasia.
Oh no, they say that. Yeah, I went to
the fifth gymnasium.
Yeah, I went to the fifth gymnasium,
Those people
and I'm
from
like,
the fifth gymnasium, they're the worst.
Right.
My girlfriend's from the fifth gymnasium. I won't stop talking. I mean, I understand. I'm from the classical gymnasium. We're even worse. We always say we're older than the United States. Sorry.
Yes.
I understand. Okay, I get it.
This is where we I'm the nouveau knowledge American that clearly doesn't know what the crap he's talking about, despite the fact that he's a native speaker and has a PhD. But I went to fifth gymnasia, so I know.
So, but did you experience that? But I'm not gonna say from Croatians just, but let's say you mentioned earlier. So you're coming from the United States. You're from Oklahoma, coming here and everything. Had a couple of prejudices, but people have prejudice about Americans too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what was the prejudice that you kind of encountered?
Now that I've lived here so long, it's hard to say that they're necessarily wrong. But that Americans are dumb, that we're fat, and dumb in the sense because yes, we don't know where Croatia is, right? And,
but that's like a lack of, let's say, kind of specific knowledge, not really dumb.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, I'm like, why? I mean, do you know where Wyoming is?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I can kind of guess.
I kind of guessed that Croatia was.
It makes sense. Makes sense. If people have to show Oklahoma on the map, I think they would have a problem, right? But
I'm cool with that because there's no reason for anybody to know where Oklahoma is. Because
are you sure?
I'm sure.
You're destroying a 1,000-year-old history of Oklahoma right now.
1,000-year-old history. Right?
It is. I'm not talking about the state of Oklahoma. It's just. I mean, everything has heritage. Like in Croatia, it's such a weird thing. So you mentioned the Diocletian's palace, right? In Split, and it dominates the city. It's not something that you would call a Croatian culture, but now it is. Yeah. So. It is kind of our culture, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Oklahoma is old as well.
Well, yeah, but it's old, but we killed all the old people that lived there and destroyed their culture, so we don't have.
Can I ask you about that? If you just mentioned that, and let's skip to that just immediately. I'm very interested in this because in the United States, such a weird thing, and not in the United States, but in Croatia, you come from Oklahoma, and for majority of people in Croatia, when you mention Oklahoma, when they know something about it, the first thing they're gonna think are cowboys and Indians. Now, Native Americans, but we still say Indians, not because I'm not gonna go into I understand what the term is now used, but I'm just saying for like kids shows and like Karl May, the German author, and Winnetou was shot here.
Yeah.
So in those days, it was like kids would play. They would say cowboys and Indians, right? And for the majority of times, a lot of kids would really love to portray Native American heroes, because it was kind of like an elven thing. A lot of literature were written here that would show Native Americans as well as positive guys and interesting characters. But when you're a kid in Oklahoma, and do you ever play like cowboys?
No, because I mean,
It's just boring. It's like what grandpa was, and like who cares
yeah,
what
I mean,
grandpa
we
was.
played like
Croats and
G.I.
Venetians,
Joe and
right?
Cobra.
Croats and Bosnians.
Yeah, we
that's
played
what
Turks and Venetians.
Yeah,
that's
that's
actually,
right.
we were
Okay.
like, I'm the Venetians.
Yeah, okay,
No, I mean, but it's also, I mean, it's a very real heritage there. I mean, I was teasing you, but Oklahoma was Indian territory, right? So it was actually
That's the
place,
word, right? That was.
Well, Oklahoma is, I think it's Choctaw for home of the red man.
Yeah, right.
But they moved all the Indians from the East Coast into Oklahoma.
It was supposed to be like an Indian, like a Native American specific political territory.
Yeah, right.
Specifically for them.
Because
right?
nobody wanted to live there, so they
Yeah.
said go. Except there were Indians there. There were the Osage there, and they were like, "What?" And then they started fighting each other. But I think it has the highest Native American per capita of any state. I mean, it's very common to know people who are Indians. I mean,
for me, that's very interesting because we live in a part of the world, Balkans and Croatia or ex-Yugoslavia, however you want to put it, when it comes to the terms of human rights and like facing the history and dealing with historical, let's say, crimes or historical tragedies, right? Now, and it's such an interesting thing because here, every next generation is kind of understands more the necessity of dealing with historical events in order to progress further. Now, maybe a reason for that is because Croatia is a smaller country, so we're forced. I mean, I'm not going to forced in the sense that we don't want to do it, but politically, we're also forced by our friends, by neighbors, everybody. But United States has this history as well with Native Americans, but nobody's actually pressuring you. You just it's your own thing that you kind of deal with. And lately we had, what was that, oil pipeline problems as well.
The thing in South Dakota or North Dakota.
Yeah, so this is still, let's say, a problem in the United States. I mean, when it comes to talking about it, right? It's still a taboo for a lot of people.
Well, the U.S. politically is so fragmented now that, depends on what you say about it. Like, I don't think anybody will deny what happened to the Indians was a bad thing. It's now people who are not concerned about that or don't care about it generally also then have racial ideas of Native Americans today, right? I mean, like the idea, they're lazy.
Oh yeah, prejudice. Okay.
And so, but, I mean, it's I don't know. I like I said, growing up in Oklahoma,
it wasn't discussed really. I mean, is there some kind of a appreciation that you come from a state that has such a big cultural, Native American tribes
I don't know. I was
up until late 19th
now we have
century.
to get into awkward stuff because I had a girlfriend for a long time who was Native American, and so for me it was kind of through that family, how they talked about it. And, one of the things I kept always calling them Native Americans, and they would just say Indians, right? But even then, it's not.
But it's kind of the word Indian for me is has such a huge monument for.
It's not
for Western England.
It's not like here though. It's not a debate. I mean, most people just don't care, right? Like most people, I would say most people in the U.S.
They don't think about it.
Or if they think about it, say, yeah, okay, it happened, but we have moved on, right? And that's where you do get a lot of emotion is when you start talking about, well, what should we do about the past, right? Like, what should we make some kind of, recompense to the Native Americans? Should we give some kind of apology to African Americans? Then the bigger problem is, and this is a bit like reverse for Croatia, right, to me. So in the U.S., the idea is that the past does not affect the present if you're white, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so from a white perspective, it's hard to say, I can understand why blacks might feel this way or why Native Americans feel that way. No, we're just going to tell you to get over it, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I feel like in Croatia, it's like everybody here dwells on the past so much.
We love it, man.
And I don't understand how that
that's where
affects
all the answers are.
But how does that affect the present? Like I do want to say, get over it. Like
we're gonna find a formula.
Arguing
and
about
then we're gonna win. Somebody's gonna win.
Yeah, arguing about this for another 20 years is not going to keep young people in the country, right?
I understand that,
You
but
know.
I brought this subject up only because I was interested in the fact that it comes up, this subject, when we talk about immigration, right? And it's an interesting idea because you still have now United States is worried about immigration. Europe is worried about immigration. Croatia is worried about immigration. But we have a
I
problem
know
with
they're like,
immigration.
wow, look at this guy that's here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
Like,
you're
why
an
is
immigrant
Cody
here, right?
Yeah, I'm an immigrant.
Yeah, so you have to respect our culture, man. You have to. But you do,
Hey,
right?
jedem juhu, popim kavu.
You do stay
Yeah,
away
volem
from
ponicu.
Vol-
You know, yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So,
All right, get off
you
of-
wrote a couple of books, right? We
Yes.
have here Croatia Strikes Back. This is your newest book,
That's
your
the
latest
second.
book.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the sequel to the first book.
Okay, and the first one is
In Croatian or in English, chasing a Croatian girl.
okay,
I don't know if we should. hold
and in Croatian,
it up. Propu papuče I punica.
you think that doesn't translate in English that much?
It does not, because if when I would tell Croatians that title, they would laugh.
Yeah, they would get
Right?
it, yeah.
They're like, ah, right. And then if I say, oh yes, it's called draft slippers and mother-in-law to somebody from the United States, they're like, that sounds awful.
like some
You
some
So-
less talented brother of Jane Austen, something weird,
Like Pride and
What?
Prejudice,
Yeah.
draft and mother-in-law.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it just shows you that. The reason why that title works so well in Croatian is because it's the three biggest differences. You know?
Really? So can you go a little bit into
Yeah.
it? Right?
So propu, right? So in the U.S. we don't have propu. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, we have a draft. We have the word the draft, but it doesn't have the conceptual weight of the
culture,
propu here.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't. No one has said, oh. He has
explain
died because
explain
of the
to people
draft.
a little, because I bet some Croatians are going to be watching, but some who are
All
not
right, so
Croatians
if,
will
so if
also,
you are a foreigner and you come to Croatia, you have to realize that propu is the cross breeze, right? So if you have, actually, here I have I don't know if you can see it, but I have a diagram.
Oh my God, it's scientific.
Yeah. Here we go. It's too small to probably see, but you can see. So here's a guy, and he's got two windows on this side, a door here, and two windows here.
Okay,
right?
okay, makes
And
sense.
Right now, only the door is open, so
okay.
he's okay. Right, the propu level is moderate to nil. Okay, but in the
Yeah,
next
he's happy.
photo,
He's happy.
Yeah, in the next photo, you see the door is open and the windows here are open, and he's a little concerned because there is a slight breeze coming through. And that's
that's a problem.
Yeah, it could be a problem, right?
Okay, we're gonna come back to later why it's a problem.
And then
what can happen?
here you have all the windows open. The door has slammed shut because
yeah,
the breeze was so strong.
Nature's alarm.
Yes, right. And this is propu panic level 10,
Oh my
right?
God, yeah.
And he is freaking out, probably because there's an old lady either in his mind or somewhere in the house yelling.
It's not just physical, but psychological harm is happening
He
as
knows
well.
that he is violating
the trust.
the trust of his ancestors
Oh my God.
by existing in this vortex of moving air.
And why? Because this breeze will kill you.
Yes, it
will
is
kill you,
responsible
right?
for all manner of illnesses, including the worst. Which is, this is funny. This phrase is not used in English, but it's inflammation of the brain.
Oh my
right?
God! Okay,
And
okay,
and I had never heard someone say, "Oh my God, you're gonna get inflammation of the brain."
We've got the best doctors. We know stuff.
So,
we know
so I was
stuff.
like, "What is inflammation of the brain?" Right?
Yeah.
And if you tell it,
And then you got it. You didn't?
No, I did not get
Oh, thank
inflammation
God,
of the
thank
brain.
God.
Right? But that was one title I wanted. I thought about having the title of the book being "My Brain's Inflamed." Right?
Oh, and that'll be the translation from Chasing the Croatian Girl. Okay.
And my editor was like, "That's not funny." And I was like, "Oh my God, okay." So yeah, you can get kidney disease, pneumonia, brain inflammation, anything involving the kichma area of the back, and these are all horrible illnesses.
Horrible things, and the second part is the psychological problem because everybody's gonna get upset about you.
Yes.
So who was the first one in Croatia who started yelling at you, saying, "Close the window! Are you insane? We all gonna die!"
Actually, I gotta say, it was my wife.
It was? Okay.
Well, and it was because one time actually it was when we lived in Istanbul for a while, and I had dried my hair.
For those who were in the coma since the 15th century, it's Constantinople.
And I had washed my hair and stuck my head out the window to look at some commotion in the street, and she was like, "Yubavi, what are you doing?" And I was like I thought she thought I don't know, the Turks were gonna shoot at me or something. I was like, "What?" I'm just looking, and then when we moved to Split, that's when I got to the intensity of it from my mother-in-law, right?
Makes sense.
Just even when it's hot.
Yeah, she needs to. You're like her, and she has a new son, and he
Right,
doesn't
but
know
it's
nothing.
like,
It's like this poor child.
It's
wasn't
like
raised
27
to survive
degrees.
The breeze.
It's and I thought like in Split,
It's the worst. When it's the warmest, it's the worst.
Yeah,
When
right.
then it kills you.
Because I thought like, oh, we have mountains here, we have the sea here. Let's get a nice breeze going through, and no.
You start sleeping on breeze, you wake up on Buddha, and you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, I
You're
sleep with a
gone.
fan blowing on my face in Split. And Punica wakes up. My mother-in-law wakes up and like comes in and turns it off, and it's like,
Oh, she's helping you. And the second one is papucha, right? So is the usual what? Taking papucha, taking it off, putting on papucha?
yeah, we don't
Is
wear
that-
it. We don't like so house shoes, slippers.
Oh, yeah.
So slippers, as I write in the book, like slippers are like a Disney. That's like what Cinderella wears,
Really?
or
Okay.
Aladdin. They wear slippers.
We're all Disney princesses and princes. Yeah.
That's right. Well, you have castles.
Very special people.
We have house shoes, but generally we just walk around in socks or barefoot inside.
Okay, so when you
Or
come to somebody's home, right, he doesn't have an extra pair of slippers
no,
waiting
no, no,
for
no,
you.
no. That's and when the first time I was here, for some reason my mother-in-law gave me like women's like
Okay.
slippers. Right?
She had an extra pair for herself, probably.
Yeah, and I did, but they were very, so I kicked them off, and then I would walk around, and she'd just be like, TC boss, right? And I thought she was saying like,
You're the man.
yeah, like I'm
You're
the boss.
man. Oh,
like,
look at
I
this
am
guy.
like, yeah.
Not wearing slippers,
You
all
know,
fancy,
yeah.
crazy,
No, little-
YOLO. Yeah, okay, makes sense. But was she worried about it? You said
Yes,
it was it was
yeah,
like a
yeah.
breeze. It wasn't really like, oh, he's respected. He's gonna die on
Yeah,
me.
it's like, oh my
what
God.
The neighbors will say he died in my house because he was boss.
You'll have
Yeah.
a dead American
Oh my God.
who's probably a spy.
Call
No
the
one wants
embassy.
that.
Nobody.
So
Okay.
and then as I've already mentioned, Punica is mother-in-law.
Oh yeah, mother-in-law. Right.
And
very
we-
important
yes,
thing here.
We
Yeah.
have no. Again, we all have words for these things, but the concepts are so fundamentally different.
Why? Because here, why? What do you think the biggest difference is? Why? Because
The
Punica
mo-
is like the new mom, and she has to be the new mom. You think that's
She's
the
like
difference?
more than mom. I mean, she's like omnipresent. Like she's this entity that dominates the all aspects of
family.
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and the
You
funny
got kids as well, right?
Yeah, we have a daughter,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is when you mention, like, I remember one time I made a Punica joke to a 16-year-old Croatian kid, right, and he laughed.
Yeah, he laughed. He
If
knows.
you did that to America, you went to an American, you're like, oh yeah, my mother-in-law, like they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Do you think it would be the similar thing if you were Croatian and your wife was American, and your mother-in-law in a sense of like svekrva?
I think it'd be even worse.
You think so? So
Yeah.
you think it works both ways? Doesn't matter,
Well, I think the Svekrva
Mother-in-law in any way, yeah.
mom thing is weird. With being a zet, being a son-in-law is nicer because you get basically her first job is to feed me and to take care of me with criticism, right? I mean, like she does.
Yeah, of course.
She does all this stuff for us, telling me why I'm bad at doing it, but she still is doing it. And I think.
But she's all. You mentioned earlier about free college and stuff, but I'm interested. Do you see Punica as being like a social institution as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like you would have in other countries, you would have kindergartens and kind of preschool and babysitting, but you have it all here in Punica. So
Yeah.
she's like not a person; she's like an institution. She
Well-
knows it's like this burden on her back. She's like, when the state will be gone.
It's Punica.
Yeah, Punica will be there.
Well, and there's that, and then also on the top that no child actually grows up in Croatia, right? Like you're in my Punica's eyes, my wife and I are still children.
Oh yeah, that's right.
and
Okay,
we're
yeah,
just
makes sense.
and I'm like a stupid child.
Yeah, horrible.
Because I'm
Horrible.
foreign. Like it's like, oh my god, look, he doesn't know shit. Yeah, but the old ladies, like the klupa, the baka bench. Like those old ladies are the bedrock of Croatian society. I mean,
Do you think it's the wisdom or just the way that they, like Italian mobsters? It's just the way. Fala, thank you. Or just the way that they are kind of, they're cool. They know that they're in control. They show their authority without have to use, without using force.
Well,
Or do you think that their wisdom is really something that is
no, I think their wisdom is nonsense.
Yeah, nonsense. Okay.
Right, but it's the fact that young people still take the time to listen to it, even though there's nonsense, and respect them in the sense that say, okay,
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of
know.
those stuff is interesting, incredibly. But some of those stuff is very weird. Like, as you said, this obsession with death from any angle, anything that is cold, and it's very interesting. But so let's move on a little bit.
Okay,
So
all right.
you come here, you have family here, now you're working here. Now, you've been here for how long now?
Hold on. 7 years in June.
7 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to say, the question, do you feel Croatian is kind of a strange question, because I guess you would like to feel Croatian, and I think you are Croatian, but do you think about it? What does it mean? Are you still, because of, let's say, your name, or because that you were not born here?
Well, I go
Do you
by...
think you will ever stop being, for people, American-Croatian?
Well, I'm trying to go by Cody Slav or Cody Mir.
Cody Slav. Okay, that's interesting.
And then,
yeah.
try to get the, I think that will...
Really? Okay, that's great. That's great. Kodimir. I
Kodimir.
like it. I like it. When you can add an extra Croatian name, right?
Yeah.
Like Hrvoje or something that's like, nobody can mess around, Like Vatroslav Lisinski, his name was Ignat, so he changed it. So, I don't think you're going to be the first, right? And Serbs claim that Nikola Tesla was called Srboljub Srbojević originally, so he also changed it.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Probably not, but Kodislav, it sounds good. Yeah.
I feel Croatian in the sense that I feel less American.
Okay.
Right? Like looking back at U.S. society and trying to imagine living there, it just seems less and less of a possibility in that sense. But I still, at the same time, feel very American in the sense that there's still so much nuance to everyday life and conversation, and I don't mean just in the language, but just culturally that I'm oblivious to.
Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Now, this was kind of an introduction, but I'm really interested in this because, this podcast and everything should also be connected with this discussion in a sense that, you wake up, Croatian to a certain degree, and how you get your news. You're living in this country now. What are your opinions? What's happening?
Oh, well, I get my news from Total Croatian News.
Okay, great.
And my wife's a journalist, so I basically ask her a bunch, and we have the HRT and TV on all the time, so.
She has a complete control over your opinions.
Yeah. I say. No, and we debate and argue quite a bit, but in that sense. But it's not. So the nuances in like personal relations, like when a neighbor or a friend asks something, and I take it literal, or better yet, I don't invest in what to a Croatian person is just normal, right? This is just you invest into this other meaning of what was said, right? And you interpret it with your rapid fire social understanding, and I don't. And so someone says something to me, and I'm like, okay, and then later my wife's like, that doesn't mean that. Or I'm like, well,
do you know an example or something?
I can't really think of an example, but just like saying no, right? For example, I always joke because in Croatia, no is the most meaningless word because the only time you say it really is when someone says like, "Do you want more food?" and you say no, and there's only one way that conversation ends, right?
You get more food.
You get more food, right?
Exactly.
And then when you want to say no, you can't, because if it's a friend asking you something or something, you have to sort of massage the answer or some way, right? And and my wife just she just said one time, she said, "You're just too direct," right? And that's what I feel is very,
like scares people or just surprises them.
Maybe a little bit of both, yeah. Or maybe they think it's I'm being rude, not meaning to, or I'm too astute in my criticism of something. I don't know how to massage it and package it, and
that's interesting because usually people in Croatia think that they're over criticizing stuff in a sense that they're being over rude. People here always say, speak your mind, this is better be safe than sorry.
I don't feel like that at all.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's great.
No, to me, I feel
maybe
like,
then it's just one of those prejudices that we have about ourselves.
Or maybe what you guys are saying is rude, and to me,
maybe in
I'm
Croatian,
like,
maybe not in English.
We
don't know how to say stuff in English to sound that.
Really, I'm talking about the interpersonal relationships.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like
people,
I'm not talking about like
maybe.
people on trams who tell you to fuck off or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that kind of stuff, or even my relationships with my students at times. Not that I'm rude to them, but things, I might be too direct in something, right? And it's just but I think that directness is a very American
quality.
I mean, it's very American.
It's number one quality.
Probably.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, we were discussing earlier before you came that how actually we always think that people in the United States are more educated in public speaking and talking. So being direct is a part of education, I guess.
I think, in part, Americans have no problem making fools of themselves.
Okay.
Right?
I mean,
and whereas...
Yeah, well, when you think about it, that's right. You have a president that is like an epitome of, I'm going to speak whatever I want to say. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And that's to his supporters, that's considered a virtue.
Yeah, it's a virtue. Yeah.
Right?
He's honest.
Whereas I think Croatians are very aware and conscious of how others perceive them, right? And not in I'm not saying this is a negative thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's pluses and minuses.
Look at who our president is.
Okay, yeah.
Right? But it's just something that's very hard for me to grasp. And as much as I'll be happy actually if I have a conversation with somebody and I want to say no, but I don't. And they still understand that I mean no, but no one said no, then I'm happy. I'm really proud of myself.
I can't do it. I have to help my punica.
Or say, well, no, I don't lie.
It's like NATO. Punica is like NATO. You're like, oh man, I would love to, but you have to talk with the guy in Washington. I mean punica, right?
Yeah, I don't lie, but I mean, if I'll say, oh, well,
it's not lying. There is probably something you have to do for punica anyway. So yeah, that's
it's a long list that never ends.
But but for somebody who's now living here and having raising a child in Croatia, you probably get upset sometimes over some stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or not. I mean, is life perfect for you when it comes to dealing with the state, dealing with life, raising a child, working in Croatia?
No,
I mean,
it's
I don't want
to.
I don't want to. I don't want to create problem with you and whoever colleague or worker you have. I'm just interested in the general perception of the country right now. So,
I mean, my complaints about the bureaucracy or anything.
That's what I mean.
Those will match.
I don't mean just bureaucracy, but like meeting Croatian state on any level. Is it weird? Is it surprising? Does it make sense? Do you think we're doing fine? We're just
no, you're not doing fine. But okay. I think, but again, that's also
thank you.
But again, that's also just the
always
fact that,
fishing for criticism.
It's also like look, the other day I went to the doctor, okay, and I had to wait. I think I waited for 3.5 hours, right? And I was the only person that brought a book, right? And it was packed. I mean, it was filled with people. Now I'm the only person with the book.
So it was like you were the only one Croatian there, realizing you got to wait for 3 hours.
No, I think that I'm the only person that is so bothered by it because it's new to me.
Okay.
Right now, at the same time, I love the fact that the healthcare is low cost and I don't have to pay a lot of money and I can do what I need to do and wait for 3 hours. But I just realized that it's me. So a lot of these things that I encounter, it's not, oh, it's awful, it's horrible. It's just that it's different from what I'm used to. Like for example, it was also paying because I had to it was at Medicor, the hospital, right? And it's up on the hill. There's nowhere to park. So I had to take the tram and then walk up the hill and, all this stuff. And, I was saying in the U.S., what do? You call the doctor, you make an appointment. It's usually within a week to a few days. And then you drive to this big building that has tons of parking because it's Oklahoma and there's nothing to stop us from building tons of parking lots, and then you park and you go in and then there's a young lady that says hello and you say, hi, I'm Cody. I have an appointment. She says, okay, sit down.
That'll be $10,000.
So then I wait and then I go in and then at the end of the day, I depending on how the insurance works out, I either get a bill or not. Again, not one isn't necessarily better than the other. It's just very different.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, when it comes to medicine, it is a very specific thing because it's very personal and private. It really depends on personal experience. But I understand. Yeah, it is. It's not a problem. But I was thinking more in terms of it's kind of weird because in this country, I guess we like to. I'm not gonna say hide, but I don't think people in Croatia are really open to criticizing the country to the outside of the borders. But inside of the borders, I think everybody's like really pissed off. It doesn't matter who's in power. Everybody's like, oh, we have such a huge potential. This is like 20% of like all the stuff we can do. And you mentioned earlier with your students, so I was thinking, do you see that kind of pessimism on other people that you meet? You know?
Oh yeah, I mean, most of my job living here is basically arguing that I didn't make a horrible decision and I like it living here, right?
Okay.
But you know, in this terms of like the state, you know, my wife and I were just discussing this today. They passed some new law about hotels and tourism that's making it very hard for small people who basically rent out their rooms and stuff, or smaller hotels, you know. And again,
something that is pushing,
you know, and to me, I just feel like anytime that something seems to be working here, the state gets involved to make it more complicated. It's like they're scared that something could be simple, and maybe, you know, maybe this is again my directness, you know, like, but just let things be simple. Not everything has to be really complicated. You know, I will say this: to me, Croatian society, I feel like people think if it's hard, it's better, right? If it's harder, it's better, and I get this with my students, right? Because I'm not a tough teacher, right? Sometimes they think like, oh well, you know, this class isn't serious, right? Because I'm not strict and I'm not like, oh, you must memorize all this grammar and you need to know this, you know. And I feel like Croatians feel like that way. They feel like, oh, if it's more difficult, it must be better.
Do you think it's also connected with the fact that if people don't believe in the state institutions? In a sense, like United States is also having a similar crisis in a sense of, but we just have it like for centuries now.
Well, yeah, but you know,
and because let's say when Trump was elected, I talked with a lot of people and they said, you know, I can't believe that Americans elected our type of president, right? And the idea was
because he has a sponsor, Russia.
Yeah, no. The idea was that he's this idea of talking about being anti-system, but on the other hand, being somebody who's obviously not educated about it, you know, to deal even with taking down the system. And in Croatia, I think a lot of people don't trust the institutions. Like, I think it's not just that they think, oh, we're not doing it right, the right way. They think it can be done the right way because it's corrupt.
Yeah.
Draining the swamp, let's say. Let's use the President Trump's quote that never happened apparently, but nonetheless, just draining the swamp is still a big issue. So, I mean, that's why I'm asking. Coming here as somebody who's apparently doing a lot of interesting stuff, and they're making a play after your book as well.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, they did.
So sooner or later, you're gonna end up on this political battlefront. Trust me. When one side will say we need Cody Brown in our high schools, our kids to read, and the other side will be like, no, Cody Brown will destroy this country if he's allowed if he's allowed to go into our high schools. So I'm just interested. Do you have a feeling that we are also lacking something else, not just this optimism, but let's say, is there some kind of grassroots democracy or transparency that ever worked in the United States that people in Croatia can use a little bit more? Something that's not politically connected with any ideology, but you know, it's for a lot of people here. I think for a lot of younger people here, it's like they don't think that they have tools to change the society.
Yeah.
So they would rather go live somewhere abroad than actually stay. So is there something that you can, you know, is there something that you growing up in Oklahoma or moving around United States learned when it comes to kind of educating younger people about their own rights and how they basically have to act?
No, because everywhere I lived, voted for Trump. So no, I don't. I mean,
well,
I don't.
He probably got a couple young voters out and voting it as well, right?
To me, the thing that's so unique about Croatia is it has all these problems, and yet it works in such a good way. Right, it's and so I feel like, you know,
we're the greatest.
I feel there's something, right? There's some secret, you know. And in the second book, I call it the Croatian paradox, right? And it's this, you know, we hate veze, except at times you need veze, and veze are kind of the way that they both hurt the system, but also it's what you need to survive the system, right? And
yeah, it makes sense.
You know, and it's this thing, but you know,
but you probably talked with a lot of people in Croatia, and they mention this veza a lot, and I think like there's a difference between being a private entrepreneur in a sense that you're getting really upset about nepotism, and being somebody who's so happy that, you know, doctor help your child because you had a connection.
Yeah. I mean,
this kind of complete opposite, but basically some people are incredibly happy they had it, and some people are so angry that it needs to be here.
But that's the thing, is that it's just the way it's all there, you know. And I mean, this is what I imagine. Look, and I have no advice to Croatians as an American, because all I can say is, you know, if you look at what Croatia's budget for education is, or what the budget for the healthcare industry is, you know, it's so small, and yet we provide free university education to students, right? We provide decent, low-cost healthcare to people, whereas the United States is the richest country ever, right? And if you have a terminal illness, or if you have some serious illness, you are stuck between bankruptcy and getting that illness taken care of, you know, or the fact that, like, you know, we have a dog, and I go out at 11 o'clock at night and walk my dog, and you know who else is out there? A bunch of other people walking their dogs.
I mean,
you know,
security.
Yeah, it's safe.
Safety.
I mean, it's safe. You are able to, these institutions that, yes, the political class sucks, right? There you go, right? But the political class everywhere sucks. Like, what country have you ever been to where people are like, you know what? You know who I like in our country? You know who just I love? Our politicians.
No, that's true. But
They're great.
But still, I think there must be a level of different anger, you know, from somebody from living in, I guess, Sweden, Norway, and, you know, like New Zealand, and then somebody live. I know. I mean, you're right. It exists everywhere. But I'm just thinking more in the terms like we're young democracy, right?
Yeah.
It's incredibly young, and there are certain aspects. Like if you take first 28 years of United States, and you know the developments then, and
Still had
now,
a lot of slaves.
Yeah. I mean, a lack of democracy is a normal thing in democracy, in a young democracy. So it's gonna take time, I know. But I was just interested because I think one of the prejudices that you probably had, just, you know, not living Croatia being in Siberia and Russian, is this lack of democracy, this mentality that lacks ideas of understanding how, you know, one should be free.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, but that's because it's transitional, you know. And I don't know what, I mean, I definitely don't want Croatians to have ideas of American liberty, because that basically means, well, you chose to be poor, die, right? I mean, that's, you know, and the American extreme is too much. I like the sense that there's a sense of community in my community in Croatia, right?
Do you think that's
You know?
connected in the United States because, you know, you can live in Oklahoma and your, like, parents and grandparents can live in Oklahoma for, like, hundreds of years, let's say 200 years, and this idea that you don't need the state, that you don't need the country, that there was no war basically happening there in the last 200 years, let's say, is this idea that, you know, it's a liberty created depending on the surroundings that you have. In a sense, Croatian, I would say this, Croatian nationalism and American nationalism are different in the sense that in Croatia, a nationalist person would never allow for people to die from starvation. That would be considered like a betrayal.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of a nation is this if our own people are dying from poverty?
Well, but this
But in
is
the United States, it's kind of different because it's as you said, this is kind of the nation based on individuality. I'm not saying all the Americans are like that. Far from it. Yeah, but apparently still right now there's a lot of people who don't have like basic needs, anything, right?
Right, but that's, you know, that's the difference there is that when you talk about those things, especially in a state like Oklahoma or in the South, right, what you're really talking about is giving white money to black people. And that's why
that's
they
the
don't want
topic.
it. Yeah,
that's the way they talk about it.
That's what welfare. That's what healthcare. That's what public goods. That's what that means, right? The idea is that, oh, well, hardworking white people work for this, and it's then given to lazy black people.
That's how they
right?
talk about it, right?
That's how it's thought about. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. That's the code.
Oh yeah. So they don't even think it about like economical reasons and the possibilities of like in a sense. In Croatia, it's thought in a sense of like, oh no, we're gonna bankrupt. Like we can't do it. It's all about money. It's not about lazy people being lazy.
Look,
people.
I just think Croatians and much of the world Croatian society is a more humane society, right?
What do you think is that? Do you think it's because we're smaller? So this idea that you have to rely on your neighbor?
I don't know if it's so much that it's something unique to you guys or if it's something that's unique to America. I think
you know why that's surprising? Because we got thicker walls. Like in your walls, you can see in all the movies. You know, you can punch through your walls. One would expect.
Right, but we have houses. We don't.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
But if you live in a house that you can be blown away by wind, you would expect you count on your neighbors even more. Because in Croatia, you have houses that probably, even if we collided with Mars, I bet some Dalmatian houses would survive, and probably some old guy from the house would be like, I don't care about the rest of you.
Well, look, the bigger thing is that in places like Oklahoma and most of America, you don't have people that have lived somewhere for more than a generation. Everybody moves around. That's why it's no big deal for me to live here, because I know there's a small chance that I would live in Oklahoma anyways, right? My sister lives in D.C., my brother lives in New York, my other sister stayed in Oklahoma. My parents are from elsewhere. Some are from Oklahoma, some are from other parts of the country. We're just a migratory country. We just move around, move back and forth.
Yeah, and all the parents go to Florida?
Yeah,
the retired people go.
The Jewish ones do.
Really? But that's interesting, because the idea was that in Europe we create, like, Croatia should be perfect, like European Florida. Like all the pensioners from all over Europe, like, from Sweden and Germany should come here and retire,
that's what I think,
right? And we just collect high
was,
taxes for their health care. Well, I would love it. I mean, Croatia is beautiful. We keep it green, we keep it healthy, and all the pensioners from all over the continent are welcome. I think it's a good idea what happened in the United States. I mean, sure, people get really upset about how Florida votes every election, but
Well, no, that's the Cubans in Florida.
Really? Oh, so apparently there's so much politics happening in Florida. Yeah, that's for the next podcast.
Yeah, Florida's just a mess. You
God.
Do not want to go to Florida.
The swampy.
It's like, if you like meth and alligators, Florida's for you.
Okay. Now you're here. Now you're working. You got books. You got your play. Tell me a little bit about a play so people would know, because it's
all right.
It's happening.
Yeah,
right?
so the play is at the Youth Theater in Split. They did it, City Youth Theater, and it's very funny in the sense that it is funny, but it's also funny because it's mostly mimes, right?
Okay.
And the main characters,
So it's a horror show,
right? Are acting to my reading of the book in Croatian, right? And like the actress who plays punica, I think she has one word and she just says yes the entire time, right? So the director, Ivan Leo Lemo, he set it up in this way. He read the book and he got that the book started as a blog, right? And then I developed the blogs into a more of a narrative. And so he wanted to keep these sort of vignettes, and he saw it really as like a circus, and so he went with this circus theme. And what I liked about that is he didn't want to create some kind of fake scenario where then he had to have some guy speaking bad Croatian to play me.
Oh, okay.
And I told everybody about this, and they were like, that sounds really weird. That's really strange, And I was like, no, I think it's going to be all right. And then when we were recording it, because I did the sound, I was like, I actually don't know if this is going to be okay. but I saw it. I think it worked out. It's sold out a bunch.
That's great. Where is it so people can see it if they can see it? Apparently, it's split now?
Gradska, kako se kaže?
Gradsko kazalište?
Gradske mladi kazalište. Gradska kazalište mladi.
Gradsko kazalište mladi.
Yeah,
we'll find out. Don't worry.
And then maybe we'll come to Zagreb. There was talk of doing an English version because I'm doing the audio, right? And I don't know what happened to that. I think it'd be great if they did it in English. Then tourists could go see it, foreigners could see it, my mom could see it. That'd be cool.
No, that's amazing. So, when you talk to your friends back home, what do you say now? I mean, you have everything. I mean, in a sense, I bet they didn't think you're gonna end up all across the planet writing books, making plays out of them. You go back home and you're like, you know what? I'm the boss.
Well, actually, I haven't been home since I haven't been home since all that started. Right?
Really?
Yeah, I haven't been home in 5 years. But my family
banned, and you're not allowed to say to your family. Did they ban you?
My family comes here, and they're surprised. It was funny. One time I was with my mom, and we were in some restaurants. My mom and my wife, maybe even Punica, and my daughter. And this guy heard us talking, and he said, "Oh, like you're American, right?" And we're all like, "Yeah, yeah." And he said, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "Where are you from?" And he said, he's like, "LA," right? And then in America, there's always this awkward moment if you're from the lesser states.
Oh, Oklahoma is a lesser state.
Oh,
right?
yeah, compared to California. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, of
and
course,
like
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
LA, like LA, and then I'm like, where are you from? And then you got to go like Oklahoma, right? But then it was funny because he's like, hey, I'm reading a book by a guy from Oklahoma, right? And it turned out that he was reading my book. So,
Oh my God,
you know, yeah. and
unbelievable.
So then it was quite fun because he's
It's
like,
now international now.
So-
What was the book?
it was this book, you know.
This book,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, and then also last year my family was in Ireland, and this was fun too. So yeah, and so they're in Ireland. They're on a tour group, and there's a Croatian girl in that group, right? And somehow they started talking, and then my parents were like, "Oh yeah, well our son lives in Croatia," and they're like, "Oh really?" And she's like, "Oh, like what's he do?" She's like, "Oh, he writes a blog and a book," and then she was like, "Wait a minute, like is your son like?" You know, and they're like, yeah.
Oh my God!
So,
well,
you know, so they think I'm like hugely
man, take back what
famous.
I said earlier.
You know?
That they will fight to put you or not to put you in our school system. They will definitely put you in our school
You know, look,
system.
I'm not famous. I'm famous.
You're gonna get a statue and probably some elementary school.
Ooh, I
named
want a
after you.
statue.
Yeah.
I
But in
just
50 years, the regime will change and they'll probably take down the
Oh,
statue.
that would be even better.
That's what I'm
That
saying.
would be-
But you know, you can be proud. It's a real
oh.
Croatian thing to do, right?
To get a statue torn down, I mean, as long as I don't have to kill anybody.
No,
right? Because
no,
usually,
no.
you know, but I would love. I mean, this sounds very vain, but
You would love it. I
I
know.
would- I
Who
would
wouldn't?
love a statue.
Who wouldn't? It's a
Yeah.
good old European thing. Can I ask you one thing? People usually say Cody Brown. Sounds like a draft song from Janis Joplin. But Cody McLean. Is it McLean, right?
yeah, it's McLean.
So I mean, I know it's not spelled like John McClane, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
When you were growing up, was everybody like, "Hey, McClane"?
No, because
McLean.
I'll tell you, because I wasn't. So McLean is my middle name, right? So
Oh, it's not a last name.
No,
It's like
so
okay.
it's my father's. It's my grandmother's last
Oh,
name,
yeah, it is.
right?
Yeah, maybe
and
that's
so there's a clan. There's a McLean clan,
Okay.
right?
Irish?
From
Irish?
Scotch Irish,
Scotland.
but yeah,
Scot-
Scotland.
okay.
It's from Scotland. But in the U.S. I'm just Cody Brown. But
Cody
here, when I was filling out all the bureaucratic stuff, you know, they have my official form, and they're like, what is this McLean, right? So because there's no place for a middle name in Croatia, right? So I think my email, like my official
Oh,
Croatian
email.
name is Cody McLean,
Oh, okay.
and then my last name's Brown.
That's good.
And,
That's good. Why
and,
not?
And so that's why I'm Cody McLean Brown everywhere, is because Croatian forms don't have the space because no one has middle names.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. But I mean, people. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff people do lately, but yeah, Cody McLean Brown sounds much more. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, like a president or an assassin, right? All the assassins,
Yeah.
all the presidential assassins.
Yeah, they
three
have.
names,
Yeah, they
right?
have 3 names. Yeah.
Right. So it's good, you know. Good.
Yeah,
good,
I mean,
good.
I, you know, you can say it's assassin. I think it's a little bit more authorly, right?
Authorly,
You know?
exactly. Yeah. You need an RR in the middle as well, maybe later. Cody RR McLean Brown. That would be great. Listen, Cody, thank you so much for coming.
Sure,
This
thanks
is
for
our
having
first
me.
episode, and I really hope people like it. I hope people subscribe. Cody, we will definitely have you back because we're just kind of opening. There's a lot of stuff I would like to talk to you. We just talked with you, you know, coming to Croatia and everything. But I would also be very interested. You're a professor on the University of Political Science, so I would like to have you back at one point talking a little bit about.
You sure this is not going to bore everybody? I mean,
Well,
you know.
considering that we're just, you know, that everything happening in the world in the last couple of months with all the nuclear deals around the planet.
That's
I
true.
think if people were bored until now, they shouldn't be bored now, right?
Yeah.
At least a little bit. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was
And
great.
We can give a big wave like a queen to the audience. And thank you very much for watching, for listening. Like, subscribe, and, you know, writing down in the comments how awesome Cody was, please. Yeah. Thank you so much.